Remix. 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 Remix.
Dang, y'all can't hear me?
Nope, you was muted the whole time.
That's so crazy because my mic was on. That's fine. We got to redo this then. Let's start over. What it do, niggas? So my evil plan about removing everybody halfway worked because Geechee just showed up late. But before y'all couldn't hear me, I was just saying, I don't know where these niggas at and that I'm usually late. So, or like just barely on time. So I'm just so shocked that they weren't here when I got here. But I started the show all on my own. So clap for me, give me my own show, give me my tens, because I did that. And I didn't mess up. Except for the muted part, which was not my fault. Don't do that. Don't do that. Geechee is so petty. I just want to say my mic was on. The light was on. So not my fault. I blame StreamYard. But Geechee showed up.
Bro, that's trash. I was in the backstage the whole time.
You were not in the backstage the whole time. I was already on here talking for like a minute when no one could hear me and no one was saying they couldn't hear me.
You was
And
giving
then
it to them.
everybody was like, now we can't hear you.
Did you do the little intro and everything?
I did. I
Look
did it
at you.
all. I did
Look,
everything.
shout out to Amber, everybody.
Thank you.
What Lord at?
I don't know. I sent him the link.
Oh, he got a run sheet and everything.
I know, which is fine. We don't have to use it. How are you doing, Geechee? How was your birthday?
It was dope. I spent some time with family, people I care about that care about me, and yeah, did a few things. And I actually
Oh,
did a
Zinzi said I said it as soon as I jumped in. I think there's a delay on the comments because I definitely was talking for like a minute or two before I even saw any comments. But thanks, Zinzi. You tried to save me. It happens. What are you drinking?
the routine. It's
Interesting.
yeah, a drink. It's a root drink with a few things, sarsaparilla, strong back, and some other things. It's like a little Jamaican root drink.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
trying to get my
I've never heard of any of those things.
no.
Not at all.
What kind of herbs you engage with?
Um, the stuff that grows in my yard is mugwort, lemon balm, and
Oh,
then I bartered somebody for some rosemary. I made some tinctures from that. I got some CBD from somebody. I made some tinctures from that. I got some clover. No, not clover. Cleaver. I got some cleaver that I made some. Someone made me a tincture for me and gave it to me, and I put it in like some bottles and stuff. I got some yarrow,
okay.
some mullein, some succotash, some black succotash. I got a few different like herbs, but they're not tinctures. I don't know if I would turn them into tinctures. But I have those as like herbs, and then I got some cotton root. I got a few different things,
Yeah.
but the only stuff that I have actual tinctures of are the lemon balm, mugwort, and CBD, cleaver, and yarrow. And I have a few jars of like CBD and mugwort mixed together, so like you get knocked the fuck out and you're relaxed. I like that
Mhm.
one.
So I see Keontae and Zenzi. I don't know if this tastes like a sweet root beer. So this is if anybody ever seen like the probiotics Mount Timine roots. Uh I yeah, I don't know that it tastes like that. It's so there's ginger in there, there's Cheney, there's blood whisk.
What's Cheney?
Cheney is a like another type of herb. I can't remember all the medicinal purposes, but yeah, it tastes to me. I don't think it tastes like a root.
Okay. Yeah, I got a whole apothecary in my kitchen.
It has a bitter taste, and
By
then like
apothecary, I mean a shelf with all the stuff on it, but it has been growing. And I got several tinctures brewing under my cabinet currently.
look at you being an herbalist over there. What you got? You got an intentional garden outside, or what you? We get all
Nope,
the stuff
it
out of
just
your yard.
grows there. It grows there.
Oh,
And
wow.
actually my story of finding out about like the herbs in my backyard is a great one. So 2 years ago, my grandfather died. First time I ever lost like an actual significant relative, like other than my dog, like my childhood dog. I'm in the trenches. I'm like going through it. I'm going to a grief counselor. I said, life is over. This is done for. I can never live again. I'm not sleeping. All of the
Shit,
medicine I'm taking, like my ADHD medicine and other stuff, stops working. Like nothing's working. And then the grief counselor was like, yeah, sometimes when you experience significant grief, your brain chemistry changes. And so things don't work anymore. And so I'm not sleeping. And one time I was up on TikTok in the middle of the night and people were talking about mugwort for sleep. And I was like, well, this looks like this thing in my backyard that me and my friend talk about all the time. And I think it's mugwort. So I go out there and I pick some live. I don't dry it. I just pick it fresh. And then make some boiling hot water and put it in there. Because on the TikTok, that was like, you just put it in there. So I put it in there and then it turns into the tea. And then I drink a cup of the tea. I'm knocked the fuck out. Like 30 minutes later, I'm dead to the world. I wake up, it's pillow lines on my face. I was like, oh gosh, I've done it. And so then I started drinking it like every day at night so I could sleep better. Um, and then I started making tinctures out of it because I felt like sometimes I'm not thirsty enough to drink like a half a cup of tea. So I started making the tinctures so that I only had to drink a little bit of water with the tincture in there, and it works. And I'll be sending them to my dad because my dad has really bad insomnia. I told him that it's probably punishment for him being a horrible father, and I think it's extreme karma that the person that helped to fix his insomnia is the person that he abused. But he said I'm probably right. So I send him them like once a month to help him fall asleep. But it does work. I know the tinctures work really quickly. He said my other friend said the tinctures work very quickly. Like within like 15 minutes they'd be knocked out. And it's not like something that your brain gets used to or like your body gets used to and it stops working because it's a tincture. It's like a natural herb. So I will say, I think I've been in my herbalist bag.
Yeah, yeah. My I got a couple herbalists. One of them, my homeboy Ketwas, and he's in Charleston. I think now in Somerville.
Okay.
Sacred Roots. Yeah, brother. Anytime,
Ooh.
anytime you got anything, you say what it is. That drug is gonna tell you any herb, all the herbs and everything to do.
That you can use. Yeah, I will say like getting into like making tinctures really made me look at what was in my backyard beyond the mugwort and limb balm. I saw Poncho's comment and they said there's medicine growing in all our backyards. Colonizers call them weeds. I think that's very true. I
Mm-hmm.
use that little plant identifier thing on your phone to like identify plants and I looked them up. There was these berries growing next to my house, and I looked it up, and it was like the leaves from the berries can help with type 2 diabetes and blood pressure. It helps lower your blood pressure. So I made some of the tea from the leaves for my neighbor who lived in the house where the tree was, and it really did lower her blood pressure, like naturally, because her medicine, they gave her blood pressure medicine that just really wasn't working, because her stress levels weren't going down. So like, if your stress level isn't changing, it's kind of hard to bring it down in other ways. So she started like practicing some mindfulness stuff I sent her and started drinking the tea, and it did work.
Yeah, I don't know if this is into like people's spiritual and cosmological, and maybe this was Pancho talking about, but I've heard and seen and verified from other folks that throughout the times, all the ailments that you have, like the particular herbs and medicines grows naturally in the environment, and if you engage it, you will decrease your chance of being sick. And I've heard that in the U.S., even though most of the soil and the air and water is toxic as fuck, but in Costa Rica, man, I know a couple folks who, when we in the rainforest, so 40, 50, maybe 60% of the country is rainforest. Like they could take you up into the mountains and be like, eye issues, take that. Headache, you take this. Taste this. And then most of the stuff, what I learned when I first got there was most of it like smell like the things that you kind of use. So you would just imagine that they probably use that. So I remember one time he breaking out this joint and it smelled like Bengay. I was like, oh shit. But but yeah,
Yeah.
I think I agree with that with Patrick.
I definitely think that things grow around you that you end up needing, because like, I mean, I use the lemon balm to treat my ADHD and like to help other people treat theirs. Like, because lemon balm is like a natural ADHD medicine for folks who don't know. It's like a natural serotonin booster and dopamine booster, and it balances you as a mood stabilizer. And I definitely see that it works all the time. And it be calming people the fuck down. Like a lot of my friends use the tinctures I make for them, and they be like, yeah, this shit work. Can I put in another order? It's like, yeah. I mean, it's not an order because I'm giving it to them for free, but like, yeah. I just tell them to keep the jar that I give it to them in so that I don't have to buy new ones. Yipper is lemon balm, LEMON, so no I, but balm, like a balm in Gilead, like a balm that you put on your, like on a wound, like that.
You look at you bringing your church.
No, I just know that song. There is a balm in Gilead, but that's all I know from the song. So I don't know the song for real.
I love Jesus is a bomb, man. I actually love that song.
Lemon balm does have a beautiful smell. Like I've had one of my friends, I picked some fresh for her because she's like, she uses it fresh. And I was like, well, what do you do? And she rolls it up in pinwheel sandwiches for her kids. And I do notice like that it does hit super quick. Like if I'm drinking it, like drinking tea fresh, is a little bit slower than if I'm drinking like a tincture or eating it fresh. And she was like, you should just put it in an ice cube tray and put it in your water. And I was like, oh, that's smart. So I started doing that. Like in the summer, I would make like sparkling water with the lemon balm ice cubes and put like some lemon in there and a lime. Oh, it was so good. It's like a little homemade fresca.
Yeah, I thought about like the the herbalist Mackendall, Francois Mackendall from Haitian Revolution, who was giving herbs to heal the folks, but also giving herbs to kill them buckers too. So I would imagine why
it is Hoodoo Heritage Month.
Hey, it's always Hoodoo Heritage.
Yeah. I saw James say something in chat about like he doesn't have a problem going to sleep, but has a problem staying asleep. I would say the mugwort will help with that too. It'll knock you out and it'll keep you asleep.
Yeah,
my dad
but
says he getting 8 to 9 hours a night and he don't wake up.
Valerian, and passion flower are those also. Like they're the actual thing to help you stay asleep. It don't help you go to sleep per se, but once you go to sleep,
you'll be in there.
And also some THC. Like you can drink and eat some THC.
Yeah. That's why I mixed so when I mixed the CBD with the mugwort, I was like, I don't know if this is doing too much, but I feel like this will be a good mix. So I put them just in one small jar. I just did a tester. Boy, I said, this didn't work. I was relaxed. I was knocked out. It was great.
Yeah.
I don't know where Lord is, but I do have something to talk about. I know last episode we talked about me keeping my hose in the middle of a rapid response campaign.
Wait,
And
what?
I just want to say that
Wait, what? I don't remember that. Rapid response. You talking about? You got your men who are your macking.
people that I'm like talking to, dating or whatever.
Yeah, I ain't calling black men no hoes. That's what I'm just saying.
Well,
You
you
got
know,
men. You got men who you mac in your organizing spaces. What you saying?
no, never
Wait,
that.
what'd you say? Rapid response. I'm missing. Okay, I'm
I
missing.
was talking last episode about how like when I had to lead some campaigns, it was very hard for me to balance both things. It's hard for me to balance like dating and having a roster of people, even though the roster wasn't that big then either. It was like 2 or 3 people. But it was very hard for me to manage that and this campaign that I was basically running. And the same thing with this one. Like I'm basically running this Freaking Out on One campaign and I'm struggling a little. Not too bad, but I am struggling a little. Because I also have ADHD, so I'm very out of sight, out of mind. And I realized yesterday, I said, "Dang, I talked to this nigga in like 3 days." And in my defense, it's just out of sight, out of mind. But I'm doing okay with the other ones. So I don't know. I think it's a 50-50 right now. I might probably still lose a few of them. Which is gonna piss me off because it's getting cold outside. This one I try to lock it down. This one I try to like lock the roster down to a certain amount of people. We're gonna see.
I don't know about all that. So you I guess two things. Whenever you talked about this time period, I guess it's cold or whatever, and then people say like, oh, they're gonna get a girlfriend or a boyfriend at this time, and blah blah blah. Like what's the logic behind like
So
it's getting cold?
the whole what is this called? Something season?
Cuffing season?
Cuffing season. Yeah, I don't beyond listening to Eric Billinger's Cuffing Season albums, I don't really subscribe to that. You never listened to Cuffing Season?
Eric Billett, is that the R&B neo soul person?
Yeah.
I'll
Oh,
actually
to answer James's question, Mugswort. Mugwort. Mugswort. Yeah, I don't really subscribe to the whole cuffing season thing. I just honestly like I feel like if I start talking to someone in the summer, I usually kind of know by winter whether or not I would continue to talk to them because now we're getting close to another year. So if I start talking to you in like, March, June, July, by, October, November, I know whether or not I would keep talking to you or not. I'm like, all right, I don't think this is going in the direction I want to go in. Or like most people should be doing, I've been dating you and I've gotten to know you and realized I don't like you. So I stopped talking to you.
so
And
it is a
that's
strategy. So it is a strategy then. So your strategy is to navigate a few people to eventually be in something serious. Is that your strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually I'd be wanting to like, bring it down to like 1 or 2 people, maybe one, depending. But I also feel like people, because I really did not date a lot in college because I was really focused on like getting the fuck out of college. People who have a lot of dating experience kind of understand or move a little bit quicker. I'm also very much an overthinker. So it takes me a few months. I'd be like, and I'd be working and stuff too. So I don't talk to somebody 24/7. Like I have an actual job. I know some people just be chilling and they have a job, but they ain't really doing nothing. So they can like kind of talk all day and text all day. I can't do that. So like I have to manage my time. So it takes me a little bit longer. And I just think that, rushing it isn't helpful. But last time this happened, when I was doing like a lot of organizing around Tyree Nichols being murdered, I just forgot everybody else existed and was working on that campaign. So I'm trying not to do it this time because I do feel like, although they should be understanding that I'm doing this important thing, I don't want to seem rude or like, like I don't care. But yeah, I'm not balancing it the best. Like I saw this one guy yesterday that I talked to the first time in like 3 weeks. And we used to hang out like every weekend or every week. And I just ain't hit it in me. I don't know. I'm busy.
But I guess the arrangement makes it sufficient because there's no real commitment. So it's not like they're expecting you to be.
I think that people you're dating, depending on the person, have commitments. Like they expect something like it, or there's like a routine that's in place. Like this one person I'm dating, we usually hang out or like go do something, like on his off days. So he's expecting to usually like go get dinner, go to the movie or something on his off days, and I haven't been responding to him till yesterday, and I wasn't trying to not respond to him, but I just have been very, very busy.
Brother Jamil says, "Be careful with your heart, young sister."
You tell them niggas be careful with they heart because I'm good over here.
That's the sign. That's a sign. Not necessarily always being good, but we'll take your word.
You said that's a sign that what?
That's a sign for actually not being good, but we'll take your word for it, like LeVar Arrington would say.
No,
Oh,
I think that
wait. Did I say it wrong? This name not LeVar Arrington. That's a football player. What's LeVar from Reading Rainbow?
LeVar Burton, the basketball player.
wait. No, LeVar Burton is the Reading Rainbow. LeVar
Reading
Arrington
Rainbow guy.
And who's
but there's a LeVar who's a basketball player too. Because his sons are basketball players.
No, you talking about LeVar Ball?
Him.
He ain't no damn basketball player. His sons is a basketball player.
But didn't he play too?
Oh no, that dude ain't playing.
Really?
He convinces people he played like he's better than everybody. But his sons, most of them are actually not that good, except the little.
I'm screaming. He didn't even play.
I mean, well, I don't know if he played like high school or something, but I don't remember him actually being an actual NBA player or anything. And I don't even know if he played college, but maybe somebody should Google that. I don't know.
That's insane. I definitely thought that man played. The way he got his own league.
Wait, is LeVar Burton? Yeah, LeVar Burton. So it's LeVar Burton, LeVar Ball, and then LeVar Arrington.
Too many LeVars.
Yeah. Lurk said he'll be here in a second. But no, yeah.
Seriously though, to Brother Jamil's advice, I'm strict around here, so I'm definitely being careful with my heart. Because in the words of Mona Leo, and I'm strict, Judge Judy ho. Not playing no games. It's a strict program around here.
Only because you say that, I'm curious about like when you engage in these situations, like how do you like I guess think around like power and confidence and stuff like that? Because and I'm asking this because we had this like collective study group, and the conversation was around power relations and protests, and it was like heavily focused on how organizations think about power externally, but none of the people in the space was like talking about how organizations deal with power internally and how it's shared and that actually fucks up your capacity to actually engage with that. So in a relational sense, like because there's these oppressive systems coming on, I wonder how do you think around power and confidence and control in this relationship, especially as you say you keep things tight. But before you answer, we'll welcome our good brother, Lord.
You late, your bed ain't made up, your do-rag on.
The bed ain't made up. That's crazy. That my bed is not on camera. Don't do me like that.
We can see it.
What?
Right behind you, you got two pillows and a yellow cover. Please try somebody else. Maybe I got contacts in.
Wait. Time out. Why the bed got to be made up? The bed don't got to be made up. You getting back in it. What type of military white supremacy?
I don't think the bed has been made up. I was just messing with him.
No, he got it.
He tried to be saying I ain't know what I saw, so I had to,
That's funny. Morning, y'all.
Morning. But go ahead, Amber. Answer your question so we can get off this relationship.
Oh, okay. About the power dynamic thing.
Power, confidence, security, stuff like that. Like, because you say you keep it tight and you already, for sure you're protecting your power. Protecting your heart. But I wonder, like, your dating methods and then how you believe that you're protecting this thing. Like, what does that mean to like power in relationship, power in your self-confidence thing?
That's a good question. I think dating and being like in movement spaces and like being more like into Black liberationist like theory and practices is hard in general. So I X people out pretty quickly. Because usually they don't have like realistic beliefs. And like some of the people, like one of the people I'm dating, I dated in high school. Like I dated him like in my junior senior year of high school, and then I realized I didn't like him that much. We didn't have his like he wasn't as mature as I would want, so I stopped talking to him. And then we recently started dating again because he has like changed a lot, which I think just comes with time. Like people grow and change, evolve, whatever. And now he has similar politics as me. I think the control thing, I don't really want to be in control. I don't want to like use control as a signifier because I actually think that's one of the problems is that I actually like to be completely in control. And because of that, I don't commit much because if I'm not completely in control, then I don't feel like safe in the situation. So I actually stopped doing that like earlier this year because my therapist been telling me to stop doing that for a while, but I didn't listen to her. So I stopped doing that because I realized that being in control wasn't necessarily giving me the outcome I wanted. I just felt like it was in the moment because I didn't have anxiety because I was in control of it. So I kind of don't use that as a factor. But I will also say like the power thing I am working on because I feel like you do have to kind of date people who you're equally yoked with, like that you have similar interests in, they're doing similar things. I do think there is a power dynamic in dating someone who is like in a much lower like level than you, like education wise, job wise, like even just like the type of lifestyle that I live. I would not. I think that it's imbalanced. And I've dated people like that and they were like jealous. It was like a constant like jabs thrown and stuff, or like calling me like just random like calling me this one dude called me like, oh, Michelle Obama one time because I knew about something politically. And I was like, don't call me no fucking Michelle Obama. Like just because I've been reading doesn't mean these other things.
She don't read either though. I don't think Michelle be reading.
Probably don't. But yeah, that pissed me off. Like he was like, "Oh yeah, I saw you at that city council meeting. Da, 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 da. I see you, Michelle Obama." I said, "Nigga, anybody can go to a city council meeting. What are you talking about? These are open general meetings that anyone can go to. Please chill out." But I do realize that like emotional intelligence and like some kind of intellectualism is important to me because I hate feeling like I'm talking to somebody and they stupid. Not stupid like stupid as in like they're purposely not seeking information. Like they're just purposely ignorant. Because some people remain willfully ignorant on purpose, just like white women. That's what they be doing. But I digress.
So let me answer this as Zenzi always do these questions. Yes. So men, women, gender non-conforming, anybody who want to talk about relationships, power is definitely always included in the conversation. And I'll give you an example right now. Lorik, how you doing? And my what's that girl name? Lady name? Wendy Williams. How you doing? But anyway, like how do
I'm doing
you
well.
how do you how do you navigate or because again I know you don't probably date like Amber as you share with us, but like how do you navigate like power dynamics and confidence and all stuff like that in relationships? Like when you think about power in relationships, you don't have to go deep into it if you don't.
No, I'm late, so I get thrown the dating question. This is my fault. And control the run sheet. This is on me. How do I navigate power in relationships? That's a good point. I don't know. For me, I think I said this last time we talked about relationships, but it starts with my favorite thing, shared definitions. So making sure that you have the same definition of love, of what a healthy relationship looks like, of boundaries and communication. That would be how I describe navigating power relationships. So that's an interesting way of putting it. Could you give me more of an example of what you mean by the power dynamic in a relationship? That's what I'm trying to understand. Because it almost sounds like you can select a power. I don't know if you can really select power dynamics in a relationship, if that makes sense. I feel like they exist from social context and then they find their way into your relationship.
Yeah, I think less about selecting it and more so on like how do you talk about it, like how do you address it, how do you how do you navigate it and deal with it, and maybe even not necessarily not how power is wielded, but so for instance, what I was talking about, we was reading this book, Poor People's Movement, and they talked about protests in the first chapter, and it talked about power relations and how those in power fight and protest to get power. And I was like, oh, well, we don't really have this conversation internally in our power dynamics of organizations. I wonder if we could take that passage and talk about that because Amber was saying something about she protects her heart because she has a strict regimen of whatever, I was curious how she engaged power.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
I said I got a strict program, Lorik.
You got to with in terms of your well, I mean,
because Brother Jamil in the chat, he was like, "Be careful with your heart, young sister," and I said, "Tell them niggas that I'm good around here. We strict around here."
See, I think I get that now. Now that makes a lot of sense. No, to the things you would put up to protect yourselves would be boundaries, like I was saying before. So I think having clear boundaries is important. But this gets into that discussion of red flags, yellow flags, that kind of thing. So I think everyone should have their red flags. That's things that like maybe personally, just you're not really going to be compatible with this person, but also things that, politically you think you're not going to be compatible with a person about. And that also reflects power dynamics, I think in some ways, usually, right? Because I don't just have random red flags. Like they're usually related to some sort of trauma, typically that people have in relationships or certain negative experiences. So yeah, I'll say that like my red flags come from people who do certain behaviors that I've seen as abusive, whether, from people who are close to me or from other relationships or things like that. But it's small things, right? Like I think people point out people don't tip, for example, or treat wait staff like shit. Right. As a, socialist, I don't like that. As a Black person whose people were, forced into labor, I don't like that. All of those things. But I do think they represent power dynamics, right? Like power dynamics under capitalism. If you're treating somebody who's a wage worker like shit. Power dynamics in terms of just how you approach people in community, right? Because that's not an ethic of community, I don't think. So all of that, I think you can get from a small red flag, like somebody talks, trash to the waiter when y'all go on a date. Some other things I think would just be how the person communicates or their lack of communication.
Can we go back?
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
treating the waiter is one thing. I think that's fucked up. But I remember the times I was in Colombia, South America, like it's actually, I've learned in most places, disrespectful to tip the people because one, they feel like they have a fair price for you, and then they pay their employees. So let's say in the U.S. context where most people don't have a lot of resources, and the person who's getting the money is the restaurant owner, and they're actually mispaying their employees. So do you, from a class dynamic, do you think like it's the person who's coming to get the service responsibility to make sure the person have fair pay? And like, I just wonder like what you think about not tipping, because I think people should tip if they have the capacity to tip, but why they're not tipping is another conversation, and it's not their responsibility that the labor is not being compensated the way it should be compensated. So I wonder, and I'm asking that because it sounds almost like when people were celebrating Jaylen Brown and other NBA players, when the owners wasn't paying the staff of the stadium, and everybody like, yeah, Jaylen Brown paid for the salaries, and now nigga who's paying Jaylen Brown should do that. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was the same with Zion Williamson. I think he was paying for like the essential staff's salaries or something like that. And I'm like, Zion's the player. That's crazy. Yeah, and he's also like,
but never mind.
No, that too, right? No. I mean, Amber, yes, and when Robert Kraft does it, or whatever his name is, Donald Sterling do it. They sure as hell don't also pay the essential workers' salary. Like as fucked up as what Zion does is. Zion's in his early 20s and he still, for whatever reason, thought to do that.
And
Like,
just dumb.
that's wild to me.
My favorite time before we got up off of Twitter, my favorite time was when that girl was crashing out about Zion. I said, baby, you better tell it all his business. Please put it out there. Woo, people are so dumb. I said, ain't no NDA in sight, huh, Zion?
No, but that's between him and his mess. And her and her mess. But a lot of red flags in that relationship on both sides. That's a perfect example. But to get you to your point about the tipping thing is wild. I always would say it just depends on the context of the society you're in, right? Like, I don't know if the country you were talking about has the same history of tipping as the US, which was literally just to stop Black people, formerly enslaved people, from getting fair wages. Like, if that is the origin of tipping in your society, then yes, it's fucked. But if in your society it's expected that fair wages are paid to workers, and they don't have that history, then at that point, I'm like, okay, that's fine for you to be offended by my tipping or something like that. So I get it.
Yeah. But the whole point was Geechee trying to figure out how I balance it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually not that hard when I'm not dealing with this other campaign stuff. But I just want to say it's also not that many of them. I think that when people are dating like 5, 6 more people, like that's a lot. I'm not doing none of that. I'm talking about like 2, 3, 4 at the max. And I might not be dating them all. I might just be talking to them to find out want to go on a date with them. Because, you also have to get to know people. And I told you earlier, I think the main reason why people should have like dating plan is so that you can get to know somebody, because I might get to know you and realize I don't like you. So if I never get to know you and I just be like, oh, you're cute, and I get in a relationship with you a few months later and I realize I don't like you, then I'm wasting my damn time.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think ultimately relationships, are a challenge even if you are fully compatible. I've said that like a few times. I think there are so many just normal things you go through in life that 2 people or more than 2 people, if you're in that kind of relationship, deal with, like that aren't just about these barriers, right? I've said this before, but it's like, how do you treat family? What are y'all's views on how to take care of elders, right? Like when y'all's parents get sick, that kind of thing. I think those are decisions that even under the best circumstances, people can not agree on or not align about. And it has nothing to do with people, mistreating each other or being in an abusive dynamic. It really is just about life circumstances making people incompatible. And I've seen that sometimes too. And that's like, I think that's a
good one though, about elders, like how you treat elders.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and what your alignment is, like, what do you want to do with kids, grandkids, even being godparents or that kind of thing? What happens if y'all have a pair of best friends and they pass? Do you agree you should watch the kids or not? I think these kind of questions on their own are enough that they can put strain on people's relationships. So that's another thing I'm looking for, as much as we have these political disagreements and all those. When we're aligned, like we saw that couple at the end of that video last week, we have our family and we have our values and it's healthy and all of those things. I still think these are the challenges that any relationship goes through. What's the relationship they have going to look like when their kids are grown, right? If they were brought together because they had this idea of a family and they raised that family in a certain way, what's the next part of their relationship look like? So I think that's the thing. For me, I got to see a good cross-section of relationships growing up, successful ones, unsuccessful ones, marriages, things like that. And these were the stuff that I always observed in those groups. As much as I like Tyler Perry's Why Did I Get Married, it wasn't always that deep. Sometimes it was that deep, but it wasn't always.
I actually think the elder thing, though, made me think of like a situation that I've seen a few times too. Not only how do you treat like your parents and elders, but like, are you a people pleaser too? Because I've dated people who, like, their mom had health issues, but they were doing too much. Like they were not. I think that you can help take care of someone, but you also can seek resources for them and not enable them. And a lot of their moms, like health issues, were like from him enabling her and like giving her things that she's not supposed to be eating, and like not like making sure that she wasn't receiving proper care, or like saying, "Oh, you don't need a nurse because I can just do it," knowing she definitely needed a nurse because he definitely didn't know what he was doing. And I see that a lot. Like people enable people's behavior a lot. The people pleasing thing, I'd be like, I don't want that, because if I tell you that I don't eat these things because they don't make me feel good, because I have ADHD, so I can't eat horribly because I don't have any energy, and you eat fast food every day, and I'm telling you that I don't want to go on dates with you because of that reason, and you continue to still do those things, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And I see that all the time, like people not taking care of their parents well, making them these unhealthy ass meals. You know, the doctor said that you need to be on a diabetic diet, and they not listening, and then try to do me the same way, nigga. No, we're not going to do that around here. I don't like that. And I noticed that a lot more with men who are like still helping care for their parents. A lot of times they enable their behavior, and it's just a boundaries issue. People don't have good boundaries, but I got good boundaries, and I'll never talk to you again. You'll be dead in my head, and you don't want to see that.
Yep.
Not get you shaking his head. Don't be shaking your head. I'm listening. I believe
Yo.
in completely detaching. If you don't want to talk to nobody no more, they don't exist.
So before we speed off of this relationship conversation,
Just
so
since you are in a relationship and you know everything.
Huh?
You never heard that, since you got your little degree and you know everything. You never
got it. I missed that. Yeah. Go ahead, get you. Sorry.
that was weak. But no, so I wonder whenever, so there's a conversation around like successful relationships. And I wonder when we say successful, does it mean that we are judging that off of the longevity and the currentness of a long-term relationship? Or we like know for a fact, like we are intimately adjacent to the relationship, and we know that it had trials and tribulations, whatever. So I wonder how we kind of determine that. And I don't know if this is similar, but like sometimes I feel like the connection dynamics, the psychology and sociology, all these other things. Like I just saw a post earlier. It was like somebody posted something, and they're like, posting a picture of themselves, and like in the thing it was like, just minding my introverted business. That's the best business to own. And I'm like, how I understand introverts wouldn't really post stuff on social media to get reactions. And I'm just kind of like, there's a lot of just like there's just a lot of things in there.
People don't be having the right definitions for stuff, because that's not an introvert. That's more so like you're secluding yourself. I wouldn't call that being an introvert. But I also think that individualism gets us nowhere. And when people post stuff like that, I just feel like they're falling into the individualistic, isolation, self-made, like rhetoric, and it's harmful.
Yeah.
But and I'm bringing that example up because those things are infused in relationships outside of us talking about relationships. So everybody, everybody in the chat, everybody now, we can all say who we are and how we are in a relationship. But like the niggas who know how you are in a relationship is the niggas you've been in a relationship with, and they might not have the same vantage point as you. So what I'm saying, like in these relationships that we call successful or not, like I don't know that we're like investigating the causality of different reactions and stuff like that. And we're just speaking from outside, like this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of my final thoughts.
I mean, it makes
No, I
sense.
think it made sense. Also, I mean, I think the question is always an interesting question, because I don't always view relationships within like the idea of power, kind of like what Lark was saying too. I just also think of it more of like how balanced things are. And I feel like something's super out of balance, then it doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Well,
we don't have the run sheet because Lorik was late, you guys. So I just want to say,
yeah, you know me.
Also, for the people in the chat saying slap the map and move on, please. We'll never do it because you said it.
No, we got to. We had some good. We had a good run today. We had a good little relationship segment, even though I was a little late for it. Glad we got to build on that. I do have more another video similar to that one we talked about last week that we can get into another time. I gotta
Mark Lamont.
pull it up. Well, I have a few topics we could go through. We could
we ain't got that much time. I gotta leave at 8:15.
Okay, well, you're gonna get you some news in then.
Since
Sure.
Lord,
What
I
do you
mean, not
wanna-
Lord,
what-
Geechee
either you
said
can
I was
pick-
quiet quitting.
you
Geechee
can
was like,
pick
"Are
out
you
of
quiet
what?
quitting?"
Client quitting, yeah, because you. Oh, and then your time difference. That's right. Because I thought
I'm
you
in a
left.
different time zone, and yet I still show up on time.
Yes, thank you. Salute. Appreciate you.
Crazy. But no, I'm not quiet quitting. I have to run a press conference today for the Free the 901 campaign. For folks who are wondering how that's going, it's going pretty good. We're getting somewhere, but they're also arresting every fucking body in the city. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
We can get to this Mark Lamont. We can get to this Mark Lamont.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have to though? Because do y'all really want to talk about that?
This isn't the. Well, to be clear, yeah, I know that brother's been all over. This isn't
I'm talking
about
this damn video.
This is not the one where he fights with what's his name. No. You know me. I'm a little more.
Is there a timestamp? Because this is 9.
You could let it rock for a little bit. We can stop once it gets repetitive. I wanted.
This thing got speed too, or no? Yep.
Yeah, get that 1.25, 1.5, whatever it is. Okay,
I
so
love putting on 1.5, 2 point some. Ooh, it'd be so much easier.
Yeah. So just context. This is the Joe Budden podcast. I'm so sorry, y'all. I do this research sometimes for us, but I can't bring myself to watch Joe Budden podcast, so I actually don't know as much about it as I'd like in order to explain this. But I do know it has Joe Budden, who's a media personality, probably the number one Black podcaster, I would say. The Joe Rogan of Black podcasts. He's got his co-host, I think one's Flip, who Mark almost got into a fight with sometime this week.
Wait. Queen's Flip and Mark almost fought?
Yeah.
We are not going to watch that.
That was sometime this week. Yeah.
Was it serious? Was it serious though? Because I know he.
It was serious. They were big mad. They were about to fight. Yeah, it was about to be a thing. It was that you know how I know it's a fight. I don't know how many times y'all seen this happen in real life, where somebody says, like, "Oh, that's lame shit," and the person is, "Don't call me a lame," and it's like, "I ain't call you a lame. I said that's lame shit," and then it's a fucking fight. That's essentially what happened. Like it's more background to it, but then I think Flip was like, Mark, that sucker shit, and Mark was like fed up because he was already on 10 from before, so he's like, "Don't call me a sucker," and he's like, "I ain't call you a sucker. I say you doing sucker shit," and we're about to get into it over that. So yeah, some people think it was just for the camera. I don't really care. I've seen so many arguments between men, particularly Black men, that look just like that, unfortunately. But this is not about that. This is actually about Mark and Joe getting into it about prisoners, particularly about writing prisoners.
After he said something about Asada?
I remember that. Yeah, let's play this one.
Yeah, I don't remember the previous context. As you see, this already 10 minutes, and I still didn't get the before and after. I don't even know where to find the Joe Budden podcast, I'm gonna be honest.
Okay.
So
okay.
It closes. They talk about Mark and his causes. So I think maybe he does mention Asada, but I also know the other new host is some woman by the name of Nona, a sister who goes by, I think, "Don't Call Me White Girl." I've seen her around too. And
wait,
so
they got rid of the other sister?
Yeah, Mona's in here now. I know Mona from a viral like TikTok a while back, where she talks about having a partner and having sex with them and not wanting to let them go. I think that was like her claim to fame, was a really funny TikTok about that content. And then she's been podcasting and things like that. Sounds like
That's all it took?
No. I mean, it's been years now, but I just know the viral. You know how the internet is, like TikTok or something is kind of what launches you, and then it's up to you to sustain the career. So I think that's what I saw launch her, but she was just naturally funny. Has a voice for podcasts, I would say, and so now she's on the Joe Budden podcast. But here we go. They're going to talk about prisoners, our relationship to our people behind the wall. I think this models how a lot of people talk about this. Unfortunately, we know Joe's going to be right-wing and agitating, but I don't think his views are something different than what we might hear somewhere else.
Obviously, I get probably 50 letters a week from people in prison that you don't know, that I don't know. People usually asking for help with their case. Sometimes it's just, I like what you do. Sometimes it's help with their case. Sometimes it's, can you connect me, da, da, da. I try to write at least 5 of them back a week. That's like my rule.
5 a week? You're such a good person.
How long the letters?
Mine are short. What I do is I read them because they're written by hand, and I write them on my laptop and then send them out.
Okay. Copy and paste, nigga.
You know what I mean?
John Jones, Ray
Stay
Smith.
strong, hold your head. No, I don't
John
copy and
Jones,
paste.
Ray Smith, Donovan McNally. Nigga, copy and paste.
No, I write original Leslie's person, but they don't be long, but long enough. You know what I'm saying? And then some people go too far, and then I gotta stop things. But then some people I reach out to, like if it's a high profile person who I think could use some help. I give you a perfect example. John Forte. He got caught up in a real fucked up situation years ago with the liquid cocaine.
Right,
and that's how I got to know him. I wrote him and asked how I could support him because I was like, I thought he was wrongfully locked up. I mean, he had the cocaine.
a lot of cocaine.
No, but
he just have a look.
No, but here's the problem. He had liquid cocaine in a briefcase, and what the feds did was they didn't weigh the cocaine based on what he had. They counted against him based on what it would be once it was completely in its powder form.
That's bullshit.
That's exactly what it was bullshit. So
That's
he ended up
some
getting
bullshit.
like.
Wait, which part was bullshit?
The fact that if they using the discovery, they weighing it on what it would be if he gets
What it
into
would
the
be if
powder
he
form
made it.
versus weighing the liquid that he
Versus
has.
what it was when he had it.
When he had it in the
Yeah,
briefcase.
when he
his
got locked up,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
This made a sense. Go ahead, guys. Do you think
I hear
he ate now? He really
I hear
good.
you too. But was the briefcase on him?
Yeah.
Was
the cocaine in the briefcase?
Yeah. Was the liquid cocaine in the briefcase?
Yes, allegedly.
Can you sell it liquid?
No.
How the
Dog,
fuck you know?
when you bag up and they lock you up, nigga, they gonna weigh all the shit.
Weighing what you have
I
is
ain't gonna
different
hold
than
you,
a
yo. Ever since this Mark hire, I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm confused on what a freedom fighter is.
I didn't even know cocaine was liquid.
So wait, you missing out. So you telling me I got to take my?
Wait, really quick. Mark hire, so Mark is permanently on there now.
Yeah.
You know how Mark is. You know Mark don't miss a check. Him and Lala Anthony, the hardest working.
Right. He ain't missing a check for
Wow,
that.
yeah, my bad. I missed the whole thing. I just thought he was a guest one time.
No, that's become part of the dynamic is that he's a permanent fixture on this show. And so part of the issue with Flip is Flip basically being like, I feel like you think you're better than us.
Wow.
Which, became its own thing. But my question for Mark is, why are you on this show? I have a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could start with, so if someone asks, you are Mark Lamont Hill. If I don't know if y'all have seen his YouTube or followed his platform outside of this. But
Wait,
if
can we
somebody
finish the
asks
video?
you-
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, we
No,
can
we're not done.
There's more in the video. Okay.
Oh, I know. I'm gonna say so when he's asked about like an example of a political prisoner that he writes, if you know Mark Lamont Hill and his work, what would be the first person you think you should say? Mumia, especially if you have this broad platform to all of these people and you do a classroom in the cell and all of that, the first person out your mouth should be Mumia. Yet he talks about John Forte and makes this whole conversation shift into a conversation about a man selling drugs, right? Instead of talking about Mumia. But we're going to keep going because Mumia does get brought up and it's very interesting.
Well, I just want to add a little comment before we do that though. I am not shocked that he brought up that person though, because them niggas would know who that person is. They wouldn't know who Mumia is.
But it didn't sound like they did.
Didn't sound like they knew who he was. Yeah, they
They
aren't
did
talking
know
like
who he was. He was saying Joe knows who he is. See, that's what the whole commentary back and forth thing is. Because then when they realized that the cocaine was in liquid form and not powder form, then they're all confused and like, well, why would they do that? That makes sense. And then Joe was pushing back because I saw this clip on TikTok. So.
Right, but he doesn't. I don't think he's knowing who John Forte is though.
Yeah,
I mean, he does. He's not
Look,
making.
say John knows who John Forte is exactly.
He might
Well,
know, but he's not. Based on how he's acting, he's not acting like he knows. Like he's talking about this dude like he's never heard the case before.
No,
or
he
like
to
a
me
regular-
he was acting like he did know, and he was judging him. Like I don't give a fuck that he shouldn't have had the cocaine. That's what he said. He had a briefcase. It was in the briefcase. Like, are we listening to the same video?
Oh, I am. I'm hearing it as him like to me. Okay, regardless of if he did or didn't know that person.
What Keontae said, Joe was being an asshole on purpose. He
Oh,
said,
I agree. We agree
he
on
had
that.
it in the briefcase. Like he's trying to make sure we're collecting that the nigga had the drugs on him, so he guilty.
Right, Amber. I agree. The only thing I'm saying is, it doesn't sound like Joe was speaking as if he knew who John Forte the person was. Everything you're saying, I agree with. It's just even if he does, he kind of makes it sound like it was just a random person and he's just hearing about the case. That's how I'm hearing.
Thank you, Chitty Matcha.
Okay, either way, it's cool. Either way,
Amber is because I know that Joe Budden is a fucking asshole.
Right.
No,
Amber,
we agree. That is not the thing here. But
I think that's the thing. So nobody is arguing if Joe's an asshole. What is being shared is from your perspective, having more context. From my perspective, I also didn't read that they know who this person is. And I do kind of key to the point where, and I think this is the larger point that folks make, Jared has made countless times, that radical people in these particular spaces, chances are they're not going to be able to get their shit off. And a lot of times these places are not serious. And what is happening here is a group. So Nana Kuntu, Del Jones always talked about the crossover, how the Star, Michael Jackson, all these other people, white power structure try to use them to do the politics after they make their face big. And it's the same thing that I feel like they're doing as a collective here. Like whatever this podcast called, I can't remember. It's full of shit. Podcast. Okay, well that one. And then Mark Lamont is as left as they can go. And so Mark Lamont brings in now they can get into politics and political shit from a Mark Lamont standpoint. So it's really just, it's the same shit that Nard does with Teslin and Tamika Mallory and whatever. It's just like, even though he's trying to cross over himself, but all I see is a collective crossover as opposed to an individual crossover.
Okay.
But
hold on, before we start back, Keontae asked me to read their comment. So Lord, Joe was doing that on purpose because he calls it him being a contrarian.
I got you. No. I'm familiar with Joe in that case, and I can hear y'all. So he does know who John Forte is. That's cool because I've said this before. Like these people know more than they let on a lot of times as well. So I can hear that he wants content. He's doing it cool. I'll accept he knows who John Forte is. My point here is mostly about who do you choose to highlight or to heighten a contradiction in this case. And Mark doesn't choose Mumia. Mark chooses John Forte.
And who edited this video to make this? Well, prisons look like school anyway, but this looked like a motherfucking hallway for a school. So who edited?
Yeah, no, I mean that's the terrifying that you make that connection. But yeah,
I'm supposed to take my hard-earned freedom time and write a nigga who they caught with a briefcase of liquid cocaine
at the airport.
If they're fucking him at trial, yes, you right.
Here's why you should give a fuck. You don't want to. It's not about him. It's about setting a standard where whenever people get caught with certain kinds of things, that they can roof you, because we all know people that sell drugs.
Mark, right? I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody that went to the airport to do it and got caught, and I wrote them. I'm not saying it don't happen. But I'm not advocating for people that go to the federally owned airport to move drugs. I'm not advocating for that. So you advocate for too much shit. And I stand in that.
That's fine.
How the fuck the drugs get here in the first? What the fuck is he talking about?
Just be talking to niggas. John Forte is where the fuck he's supposed to be at.
He's been out of prison for like 15 years.
He's supposed to be at. He's in fucking Aruba. Chilling.
He actually, more thanks to Carly Simon, but like they put a lot of energy into getting him free. But the point is, it's our cousins, our brothers, our sisters that's going to get locked up and get sentences that they don't deserve. Instead of getting 5 years, they're getting 50. And that's the part I care about.
Damn right, Mark.
That's the part. It's not about him. It's about people getting 50 years instead of 5. In the same way that people who are selling coke versus people selling crack got different sentences. Okay. I'm not saying go sell crack. I'm just saying.
But you're not writing John Forte and saying, hey, that was probably a bad plan. You write him saying, hey, man, that was wrong, the time that they gave you.
No, that's not what I did. What I asked him was, I connected with him initially to see how I could get with his legal team so that we could work with the ACLU and other people. One, to get him less time, but more importantly, to set a standard where they can't go around giving people, the state can't go around giving people that much more time for something they didn't do.
Right.
That's all.
Mark, whatever, bro. Whatever. I don't give a fuck.
That's right.
I ain't about to sit there and pretend like I give a
fuck. You're doing great work, man.
Yes, thank you.
You fight the good fight.
Thank you so much for what you do.
Word. Thank you, Monet. With the exception of you, I want to say fuck each and every one of you.
No, I'm saying thank you
Also,
for the fight.
and
I was being serious.
Not you.
But me?
That
You know what? You come to Cookout. Fuck this.
Oh, shit.
Who else are you writing? Who else are you writing letters to?
That's a really good question.
Now, who else are you writing letters to? I'd love to hear it now.
All right. I mean,
Mark,
you mean prison?
Don't, bro.
You know what?
It's absolutely a trap, but I want to know.
I feel like his list of who he activisting for.
Free Mumia.
Mark activist for too much shit. You don't think so, Ish?
That's his bag.
A freedom fighter's job is never done.
So she just said free Mumia, didn't she?
Finally, Mona's the one who says free Mumia. Mona.
I think I remember her now. I think she was doing activist shit somewhere.
This isn't Mona Scott Young from Love and Hip Hop.
I don't know. This is Don't Call Me White Girl.
Yeah, I feel like she be in spaces where she.
I don't know who she is.
Yeah. Regardless, she's the one who brings up Mumia. I just want to like point that out. Mark has the platform. Mark is being asked, who do you rate? Who? He still has the show. The Classroom in the Cell still airs on Mark's network.
This how I remember her. Yeah, I do think I be seeing her in like Philly and Baltimore spaces, and remember her. Like, not that she's like whatever, but I do know she's adjacent to like people who would know Mumia, and if she's from Philly, Mumia has a pretty solid following, even with street niggas in Philly. So I'm not surprised that she brings it up.
Right. No, I mean, I agree. That's kind of the point in this case. The optics of this, the dynamic, how it's set up, like to point out something interesting.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, she's in these spaces and not a contrarian. Like this. So how does this then shape consciousness? Because I know a lot of people's positive element to this dialectic is this is exposure, right? It exposes the public to radical arguments. But I think on this channel, we always talk about how that is not how that works. That's not how power works. That's not how optics work. What I end up seeing is Mark gets held up as this like standard of this good guy. He's individualized, right? Mona's there talking like, I'm not you, but I admire you so much, and all of these things. And none of this is agitating people to struggle. None of this is agitating Mona. You know what, Mona? No, come with me. Let's go visit Mumia. No, where is that happening? Obviously, because I am aware of these shows and these things. I'm not asking these questions, but I do think a lot of people who don't know the dynamics of this show are still kind of left like, yeah, what do I do? Or they're just like, Mark's a smart one. All these other brothers are idiots. And to me, that's been a pattern in Mark's career from early Fox News days, where he's the black man on Fox News, and we just looked at him, oh, he's the guy who's making sense. Okay, cool. You're in the fucked up space making sense. How does that translate to action or anybody doing anything other than putting their attention toward you as an individual?
Yeah, I see a little nuance, and so remember, a lot of people have jobs and they do some political shit outside of their job. They might be on social media, whatever. And it sounds like to me, the sister here is saying, like, don't even play into this shit, Mark. I know what they're gonna do. They're gonna try to ambush and sully some shit. And she's not silently, but like softly, like Mumia. But because there's a good chance that she's with the shits and she's with like particular things, because that's why she even like kind of argue and like validated what Mark was saying. But she also know the room that she is in, and as JC say, she know how to move in a room full of vultures. So she's getting her bread, and she's kind of like, these niggas ain't serious, and you're wasting your time and our time. And in fact, I can't sit and watch these niggas do. Whoa. I can't sit and watch these niggas do what they about to do. Example: when Nard was on Comedy Central, this nigga was pretty much calling Asada and people like that niggas, and he was like, this dude is the head nigga killer, and that nigga, like, he's joking on a white platform, Comedy Central, and claiming the shit that you was about to say, Lord, that a mention of a thing in those spaces is going to radicalize niggas. Where's the data? I've never seen that happen. Now, are there few people, exceptions to the rule, who can be in a space and hear a shit and follow up? But if it's 1 out of 1,000 niggas that's doing that, like, that's not an effective strategy.
Heard, yeah, and agreed. No question. All right, we could wrap it. I think there's a little more.
Well, I just want to say one comment that I do agree with what y'all are saying, and I also think that someone in the chat, Keontae in the chat, was saying that he talks about Mumia all the time on the show. So I do think it's weird that he didn't say it this time, but I also think that if he has mentioned it, I'm sorry, my dog pissed off, but if he has mentioned it multiple times, I can think why he was trying to maybe talk about someone else, since she was saying that he talked about them multiple times on the show.
I'll take that critique because I don't watch the show.
And since I don't listen to the podcast,
yeah,
we don't listen
I don't
to
watch
it,
it.
we don't know that he's talking about him multiple times.
Fantastic. So I'm just critiquing that segment. Yeah, got you.
All right. You got it.
I admire what Mark Lamont Hill does.
Thanks. I appreciate
Like,
you.
I wish I could give a fuck that much. You know what I mean? Like, I care, but I said this before. Like, we marching is like wrong. They killing niggas, you know, so another nigga just got shot. We marching. But I care to the point, like, when the state trooper, like, nigga, get the fuck up. I'm getting up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not locking arms and going to jail.
I care about that. One of this a state trooper murdering a black person in a car in front of their daughter, putting their knee on her neck. Hey, let me get my activist clothes.
Do you come outside and go to the
Give
protest?
niggas 50 years instead of 5, and this ain't worth the activist
A
clothes?
nigga that went to the airport with a briefcase of liquid cocaine.
Wait.
So you think if you guilty of something, you should get whatever time they want to give you?
I'm saying that you got to lay in the bed that you make.
No matter. So they can.
My mom preached to me that the jail system is modern day slavery. They're looking for black people, and once they get you in the grips, baby, there's nothing that I can do because it's an unfair, unjust system.
But you had a smart mom. You had a mom that told you that.
Yo, you told me you used to rob people. You said that last episode, right? Yeah. They gave you 30 years for it. You want somebody to advocate for you to not get 30 years for robbing people?
Without a gun?
I would do my time. That's what I would do.
You was robbing niggas with your index and your middle finger.
What? I would do my time. That's the accountability part of being a street nigga. That's why there's a separation between niggas that's street niggas and niggas that's not. Some niggas are going to do it and take whatever on the chin that you give me because I did that.
But my question was, would it be fair?
But what be fair?
Would it be fair for you to get 30 years for robbing somebody?
Maybe not, Mark. Life ain't fair.
So
life ain't fair.
So my job is to make it more fair.
No, it's not your job.
It's actually his job.
I'm done with Mark.
It's his literal job.
I'm done with Mark.
That's what we do. We make shit better.
I want to know who else Mark is writing to.
I'm writing all kinds of people.
He's writing them in there, bro. Hey, man. Mom and dad today.
Have you ever wrote Mumia?
Mumia and I wrote a book together.
Damn, nigga.
It's called The Classroom in the Cell. In fact, we're writing a second one right now. I talked to Mumia yesterday.
Tell him I say hi.
I will.
Hey, you don't take this Philly book club shit up the street.
Nigga, Mumia Abu-Jamal, the world's most famous political prisoner.
Oh.
Goddamn.
Yo.
Literally.
What else do we need? What else do we need?
Talked about it.
He did that at the airport. Was that when the door?
Y'all say he talks about it on the show, but this is why I didn't believe that, because Joe Budden is here acting like this is the first time hearing the name. So if that's part of the contrarian bit that or character he's playing, cool. But again, like, this is somebody who, when the name gets brought up, he's like, who was that? I don't care. And then for Mark to drop like that's the world's most famous political prisoner. This is what I mean about Mark and what Flip said, trying to be the smartest one in the room, in the sense that, like, that doesn't explain that to people, in my opinion. Just saying, oh, it's the world's most popular political prisoner. I'd be like, okay. You know, if I were somebody who didn't know who that was or was unconscious about that person, I would want to know, who is that? What is their case? Right? We just got so much information about Forte and the liquid cocaine and all of the things. What's the Mumia case? And then what's the action? Because there are people asking for Mumia. We've been on here asking about Mumia's cataract surgery for weeks now. So I'm lost, truly, about what this platform is for. If you're not going to use this moment to agitate, if Mona has to bring up Mumia to you, Mona, who's not even aware that you do the classroom in the cell, like, Mona wasn't even aware of how tapped in Mark is, which is my whole point about the liberals and how much information they have and how much they know. Mona didn't know that Mark is on this YouTube and you can see him doing the classroom in the cell with Mumia. He didn't bring up the book. He didn't bring up nothing. Instead, he lets Joe sit here and lay out this false equivalence and talk about some shit. And again, like, in a community space, so I'm talking to brothers, right? Like, that kind of thing that Joe just represented might happen. That I was okay with that talk, you know, oh, you're street niggas, we were supposed to do this, you take your time on the chin, yada yada. I do think that's an organic perspective you see in the community. I just don't know, again, why Mark isn't hiding the contradictions around Mumia, one, and then two, just other contradictions that we have to accept to be in these spaces. Just like what we saw with the Killer Mike and Charlemagne interview, there's so many lies, so many things you have to address before you even get to what they're dealing with on camera. Why are we here talking like Joe Budden's serious? Joe Budden beats women. His own ex said he does it. So he's talking about, oh, I'm gonna take the time. Man, you didn't take the time with Tahiri. So this is just like what I mean. And then Mark, it looks goofy to me being around these people. That's like, Mark, you're here trying to act like he's a organic person you can interact with, like he's someone from the community, but he's not. This is someone who's paid to be contrarian, as we're pointing out. There's somebody who already has cases. You know, so I'm just, I do struggle with these kind of spaces and what their value is.
Yeah, I think if Mark had space or time, and sometimes he might even, I don't know the power he have, and it could be like the other stuff, like who get the book guest and why. And I know we always see these, like, we see Joe Budden podcast, but we don't really focus on the network and the distribution and all those things to who actually controls what gets out there. But I would push, what's this nigga name? Joe Budden's on what is the street nigga and why our niggas are street niggas. And are these people engaged in survival economy? How do they relate to the actual economy? And so, if anything, street niggas should probably be politicized in a way like, yeah, I'm against the same shit. And that's why, like, you would have to go into this particular level of economies because your ass is locked out and oppressed out of the other economy. And so, I mean, I don't think Mark is equipped to have that conversation. And as the sister was saying, not in that space, but like she's telling you her hand too. It's like, yo, I'm with this shit enough and tell a gun, the gun is on me, and the nigga said, get up, I'm getting up. And this nigga Joe is like, well, I mean, I put my activist clothes on for this. Yeah, so if Mumia is framed up and there's evidence in the motherfucking building right now that can tell you that this nigga is framed up, but then Lucretia Clement, like there's a lot of conversation that you can go into that. But again, Mark ain't really there for that. He's there for to be the radical nigga. And on a larger scheme of things, whoever's behind the money in the situation is saying like, yeah, that's as left as you can get. And it's going to do something for you because it's going to bring not only other people to the platform, but it's going to bring us to the fucking platform. And that's why we're here today, because Mark is there.
Yeah.
You're funny.
Amber, any other thoughts? I think we can close it with what Mona's about to say and then move on. Because Mona has a good point.
I mean, I think this was an example of like, because we don't watch this show, we don't know like the full spectrum of like what's being talked about. I do know that I definitely have conflicted feelings about Mark Lamont Hill. I also saw this video of him this week, like at some event where he was at the event and Mumia called him. So he put him on speakerphone and Mumia was like talking in the event. Everybody was like astonished and like, just, that how like celebrity fandom thing people do. And it's like, is he doing this because he knows people would react that way? And then also like, I don't know what you're saying on this podcast because I don't listen to it, but I do hear people saying that he does talk about Mumia a lot. But also Mark Lamont Hill has very much like, academic money nigga vibes. Like, he gonna go where people paying him, which is why he on this fucking podcast. Because I don't understand why he's on the goddamn podcast in the first place. So right. I think I'm conflicted by that. Like, yeah, he has these beliefs and he is saying that like he's fighting for these things. He believes in these things. And then some of his actions are like still contrary to that though. Like I would not be on this podcast with a nigga who beats women, who very clearly beats the shit out of women. I would never be on that podcast. If anything, I would have started a rival podcast to that podcast just to prove that I could take your viewers, but I wouldn't join it. So I think that my confliction is that like his morals when it comes to like capitalism isn't always upstanding because he's willing to, because I know he lost money around Palestine shit. Like, so he took this job. Like he wasn't going to say no. And I also think that when it comes to organizing, like the big thing I've been telling people about like here is like, at what point do you self-sacrifice? When we talked about like Black August and doing this study, like a lot of people were really struggling because they were like, I don't have the discipline. I don't have the self-sacrifice. He's not willing to make the self-sacrifice and he doesn't have the self-discipline. So he went on that show because he got that money. And I think that at what point do we say, that's too much. We can't do this. Like we just can't fuck with you.
Yeah. I think that's an excellent point, Amber. And kind of to what Ananda said, like, we can't concede spaces, but that also means like being in an organization makes more sense to not concede spaces. So you come media prep for it. So when Malcolm and even Farrakhan, when they were and Kwame Ture and whoever you want to call it, when they was on Donahue, my nigga, they were in an organization that said this is the line and this is what they're gonna do. But these are individuals moving in a particular way. And then kind of to your point, Amber, like let's not forget that to be a revolutionary means you don't have a pension plan, you can whatever. So when these young niggas come around and they got influence and money, you being connected to them is not like wow, it doesn't validate them. It's just that like you just like when Yesha Teller was on the White Boy, what's the White Boy show? The white late night dude that nobody liked. I don't remember.
Jimmy Kimmel?
No. Like Jimmy Kimmel was
he's online. He's on the left. You talking about online left? Jimmy Dore?
No, I don't know if Jesse Teller was on there, but he was on like a mainstream. What's the white boy?
Oh, okay. Tucker Carlson.
Tucker.
Yeah.
So if people are trying to get free or trying to navigate the system, what their tactics is to do that is like something else. So like, Mumia having access or Mark having access to Mumia and Mark having influence is no different. I mean, it's a little different than like Zenzi having access to Mumia. If Zenzi writes Mumia, well, Zinzi don't have the platform as Mark. And Zinzi will be actually engaging the person with the care and trying to organize. Mark trying to get a ticket. But Mumia connected to him could be a part of the larger strategy that I'm sure his team is advising and saying yes or no, this is the benefits, these are the causalities or whatever. So I just think, the dude is he's I don't know, grifting the movement and grifting some of the people in the way in which he's using them. And I think that I don't know if people, when they engage Mark, they engage in conversation like that. But even some of our people, either friends with Mark or they will go to spaces that's Mark in. So I think it's one thing about conceding space, but then also it's like Mark don't have a line that he can go in there and he don't have a strategy. Yep. Mark is there for, as Amber said, because he trying to get his bread up in the other community. And it's almost like the argument is like, if I stand up to the man and get fired, are y'all gonna support me? Well, this is Mark going to the y'all gonna support me thing because black people all up in Joe Budden's face.
Yeah, I mean, that's really true. I think some people are lost in the comments real quick. You were talking about Chairman Amalia Shatella of the AS.
African Socialist Party.
Socialist Party, yes. Thank you. Sorry. And what you have to do when you're facing a case from the state, and what strategies, what tactics individual campaigns deal with. So that's why we brought up Amali. I know some folks are confused. APSP, thank you. The letters were jumbled in my head, Kai. So that was why you just mentioned that example, because some folks were thinking it was Mumia. Other than that, I mean, Amber, to what you just said, this is my point about capitalist individualism. Like Ichi, you're right. Like, what is his line? What is his organization? Who is he accountable to? Who in the community says, other than like, it can't just be your wife. Like, you did a good job, Mark, like on the air. Like, it's not the person to be accountable. It's one person, but like, who are you actually accountable to? And to your thing again, like I think of how organizations in the past were set up. Like you said, when Malcolm's on these shows, Malcolm has notes. Take a look at when Malcolm's on these. He's got the Constitution in front of him. He's talking to brothers from the nation, like, "Oh, I didn't get this. Can you come fact check this for me?" And comes and correct. That's the level that Mark is coming with. And not saying that doesn't exist now. I would actually look at Leaders of Beautiful Struggle on this channel, and Davon and Lawrence, if you want an example of how that looks in the modern day, where they have a think tank, something that they've actually set up that they represent, and all roads don't lead back to that one individual, which is my issue with Mark. All roads lead back to these kinds of figures when they place themselves as central and as representatives of this ideology or this movement. You want to talk about Palestine? Well, I was on the Joe Budden podcast, so I bought Mark's book, except for Palestine, because I wanted to learn more about Palestine. Oh, I was on the Joe Budden podcast, and I saw Mark Lamont Hill say X, so I went on his YouTube channel. It leads back to Mark. It doesn't lead to an organization. It doesn't lead to an on-the-ground struggle, even though Mark would say that he's the one who pushes you there, right? This is my thing. Raise the contradiction here. Put people onto community-based work, group-based work. Mark has a bookstore, if we're talking about some contradictions there. So, go to my black bookstore. Seems like a natural conclusion to this kind of
conversation.
Yeah,
Go to Uncle Bobby's.
Oh, who's there? Y'all can't smell the liquid. Who smells?
My bad, Amber, you saying something?
No, I was just saying, I agree with people in the chat who were saying that you have to have a line because, I mean, I'm experiencing that now. Like, somebody asked me to go to Invest Fest a few weeks ago. I was like, I'm not going to fucking Invest Fest because that's not something I would do. Like,
you
can say no all the time.
You can say no. That's the theme here.
Who's the somebody consciously sound like? Consciously tell you to go?
No, it was a booking agent. They reached out to me to try to book me for the thing to speak at it, and I said no.
That's even worse. Okay, go.
Joe, are you being facetious or you dead serious about the cocaine thing? Joe, are you being serious?
It was in more than the 3 ounce bottles.
Oh, that's right.
Joe,
like I'm sick of Mark. I ain't gonna hold you.
So you're being serious? This man going to jail with liquid cocaine in his pocket. He's getting charged with, instead of getting charged with liquid cocaine, he's getting charged for powder cocaine. What he would have done with it. You think that's like regular? That's normal. You're not supposed to stand up and say it's not true.
It's not normal and it's not fair. And thank God that we have people like you and Mark that advocate.
I don't advocate online.
I don't think that.
I advocate on podcasts.
I don't think that when Americans go to Dubai with a little bit of weed, that they should get locked up for life neither. I think it's a little joint. I think what they did to Brittany Griner was wrong when she had the vape in Russia. Mm-hmm. But don't go get her out. Just leave it there. No, that's not what I'm saying.
What I'm doing is going to hell. That's what I do. Yeah, I get it. You shouldn't do it. Nobody should do nothing fucked up. But I never hear that part in your message. Because there's
I
no
never hear that part.
because there's no shortage of people telling them nobody thinks you should bring cocaine to the airport. I don't need to write you out and say, you know what, you made a bad choice. He knows he made a bad
people
choice.
have a shortage of people in their life telling them that when they did or didn't make a good
So then let's do
decision.
this. When a nigga get caught with liquid cocaine, you write him and say, yo, that was a bad idea, and I'll try and get him free. That'll be our split.
Nigga, I'm not gonna have a pen in my house. What are you talking about? He missing my whole fucking point of what I'm saying. No, nigga, I'm not doing that at the airport, so I never have to get a pen and write one of these dummies that did that at the airport.
And I do talk to him about that. I go to the prisons and talk to him about that all the time. I do that all the time.
Mark, I was 21 facing 10 to life, and I wish a motherfucker would have came and said this is wrong and that's wrong, because it was wrong. And the only reason why I didn't get 10 fucking years because they changed the law. Exactly. That 101 law. That's why I didn't get all that time.
That's my point.
You know how many people was advocating for that, including, but not limited to, the fucking president. He came out and said that judges can use their own discretion, and that's why I didn't get 10 years, because what Obama said. The law didn't even change all the way yet.
Yep.
You're right. He's wrong.
Thank you.
Let it fucking go.
Facts.
Niggas. God damn.
This is good talk.
Niggas.
That's Mona.
Now let's go back to what Geechee said. Why is that worse? What you trying to say?
Or what? The booking agent trying to get you to speak at
Yeah.
InvestFest?
Yeah, why is that worse? Booking agents reach out to people all the time and try to book them for stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
that is the booking agent's job.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about booking. Like you. So, for instance, if a booking agent calls Lorick and be like, Lorick, you should go speak at InvestFest, and there's a good chance they didn't listen to any fucking thing Lorick been doing.
Yeah, that's not my agent. Yeah, that's not a good.
So what I'm saying is, that they invite you there. I'm like, who the fuck? Do they know you, or do you know them, or what?
No, people just see me from like doing policy stuff, and they assume that I would want to go talk about like policy stuff. Which I was like, that's crazy, because I've never talked about investing. But this is also why people should stop using AI systems, because they use AI systems to look at people's socials or like headlines about them and assume that that's a good person. They reach out to them. That's what LinkedIn people do. I get a lot of like booking agents reaching out to me on LinkedIn, because people write articles about me on LinkedIn, but I don't actually use my LinkedIn. But people see the articles and stuff and they tag me in something or send me a message and try to get me to do something. And I'm like, no, I don't believe in any of those things. Like, it's a no for me. I had to listen to this dude ask me to go on somebody's podcast about Black children and freedom of choice around like school and stuff, and I had to listen to the whole podcast because I said, this sounds like some charter school bullshit, and I don't trust that. So no, and then I eventually said no. I was like, sketch.
Yep, got to pass on some of those. You've learned the talent market still trying to perfect.
I have passed on about 95% of the things people have offered me. I've only agreed to like 2 things, literally. Mm-hmm. I'll pass left and right. I'm not like Mark Lamont Hill.
Yeah. Oh, well, that transition to taking money. I think that transitions to the next story. We want to talk about Newsom short circuiting like Mitch McConnell, but he's not.
I gotta go do this press conference, y'all.
Yeah, that's right. Best of luck. Peace. I'm sure
Thanks,
we'll do
y'all.
this next week.
Peace. And if folks want to like follow the Free the 901 movement, you can go to freethe901.com or Free the 901 on Facebook and Instagram. We'll post some clips from the press conference. But we're having a people's briefing press conference to talk about the actual impact of the federal occupation. So people will hear from folks who've been to jail, for folks who live in these communities. The police are like circulating and trying to like get them for traffic stops in. They're from small business owners, from the immigrant pantry who's running this pantry to deliver food to people, because people literally will not leave their houses to get food because they're picking up people for any reason, not just to deport them, they're just arresting them. So we're trying to really change the narrative and show like what the real impact is.
Thank you. I just dropped it in the chat for folks, and we'll definitely talk more about it.
Thanks, Lord. I'm gonna probably watch while I'm driving there, but peace, y'all.
Peace. Geechee, I got some the Newsom malfunction, if you want to get into that. And then to close this out, there's 2 options. We could do our Flashback Friday with Black Agenda, or we could talk about China business and this really cool channel about China's economy, if we're into that. So up to you. But I wanted to touch on the Gavin thing real quick before we move on. Shouldn't be too long.
I think we should save the China talk for when me and you talk to the young boy and y'all.
Okay, word. Yeah. For folks in the chat who might be curious, the channel's called Inside China Business. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of it, but it's ostensibly someone who should be, kind of a class enemy telling on themselves. And Dwayne Monroe said that on Jared's show this week. We should listen to those people if they're ostensibly enemies, but they're honest. So this is a former veteran and a U.S. businessman who went to China to learn more about their economy for his own selfish capitalist purposes, and then had to engage in some materialism and recognizing China's economy is just far better than what the U.S. has going on. So that channel is really dope. Hopefully we'll bring some clips onto the Friday remix. But yeah, we definitely need to talk about that and whether China's imperialist, because this man is over there kind of losing his mind every day at all the things he's hearing on the West and then what he's seeing on the ground. So we got to talk about that one. Yes, yeah. But we got Gavin here losing his mind. Do you know any background on this podcast at all? I didn't know who this was. I am seeing Democrats kind of just get clipped on all these random podcasts, getting asked certain questions about why they lose and all of that. But
talking about what is it?
Chat, do you see it?
Yeah, I don't know. This is a black person in the podcast?
I think so. If we
Yeah,
could bring it up.
Yeah, I ain't never seen this one.
So yeah, I higher learning podcast is what this is. I'm not sure. Okay, cool. It was already right there. My bad. It is a black host asking people these questions. I think he's in the comments saying that was my interview or something along those lines. But he's dissecting the biggest topics in black culture, politics, and sports. It's a Ringer podcast hosted by Van Lathan and Rachel Lindsay. Okay, very interesting.
Van, I did see something about Van back there. Oh, Van Lathan Jr.
Van Lathan and Rachel Lindsay. So this is again, because I'm like, how does Gavin Newsom get on a podcast? You know, those are pretty well screened. It'd have to be something tied into mainstream corporate media. So, okay, got it. That is how this is. So Gavin Newsom gets uncomfortable when asked questions about AIPAC, the Israeli lobby that pays quite a few members of the Democratic Party. So we can check this out.
You're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting.
I will not vote for a candidate that takes $1 from AIPAC.
It's interesting. I mean, it's interesting. I haven't thought about AIPAC. And it's interesting. You're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting. Why did I say that? Not relevant to my day-to-day life.
Okay.
Which is just interesting.
Listen,
it's interesting you say that. JPAC perhaps more, but AIPAC less and less.
Okay, fair enough.
Which is just interesting.
What's interesting about it?
That it's just interesting as you bring up AIPAC that it hasn't been part of. I'm just reflecting quite openly and honestly. Hasn't been part of the day-to-day.
Yeah. The only reason why I ask is because with that, what I'm talking about is lobbying in and of itself.
Okay, so yeah, I don't really need much after that. Yeah, because the next part doesn't really matter. I actually think he softens his stance. I think he had him there, and then he tries to make it about lobbying more generally. But like, brother, we don't got to do that. This this man just said interesting 10 times in 30 seconds. Yeah, I did say Mitch McConnell because it's that short circuiting thing. But this guy isn't old and senile. He's just dealing with the political contradiction. So that's why I was laughing. Mitch McConnell short circuits and just freezes in place. This guy said interesting about 20 times before he could put together a sentence. So
yeah, I mean, I don't even know what Van Lathan, like I don't. So it reminds me of like, I feel like all of those black pundits in these spaces, they have like a group call or group something. So like I think Amber was saying something like she went to these conferences and influencers, whatever. And I feel like those people also have these like meetings and things they go to, and they get what they should be talking about, right? So at one point, Charlemagne is talking all day about the filibuster. And this person talking about AIPAC. And I don't really think they even understand what the fuck anything about any of that. And it's like getting into the argument about two people who both of them wrong. Both Democrats and the Republicans, both of them wrong politics. And it sounds like there's always like this staunch, radical sounding, looking, appealing Democrat who's trying to like hold somebody to the fire. So like Van, I don't even think Van explained what AIPAC is or why it is or how it's the problem or how it relates to black liberation or black people in general. It's just kind of like, so And maybe even when Newsom is like, I don't, what the fuck you talking about? I don't. Maybe some of it is like, bro, what the fuck you talk? Tell me, okay, tell me what APAC is. Why is it wrong to take money from APAC? What did I do? Whatever the case would be. And then what is a PAC? What super PAC or whatever should I shouldn't? So I don't know. I just think Van Lathan is different than Mark Lamont Hill.
Well, there's some context. Yeah, he's Mark's definitely more politically astute, which is why the critique is harsher for him. But some folks in the comments are giving us the context that Van Lathan was on TMZ back in the day. He got big when he went at Kanye about Kanye's slavery comments, and he's branched out since. So, okay, somewhat progressive, bars on the floor, but somewhat progressive for that media ecosystem. Got it. And Geechee, I agree. I think what's interesting though is it does speak to kind of public consciousness, that somebody would be asking this question who isn't as prepared politically to engage Gavin Newsom, because obviously Gavin and folks like this, they choose their opponent, so they go on podcasts intentionally that they don't think will ask them tough questions or anything like that. So I think that's obviously expected, but the floor is so, the block is so hot basically right now around Zionism that even these podcasts that are seen as more normal are asking the question, right? So I hear you. I don't think he has the full understanding of AIPAC necessarily, but the fact that he even knows to say it, that's when I do think folks talk about the left and we're making an impact and all of those things. Like, yes, actually in that case, that is what's happening. You are shifting the way conversation is happening to make people aware of certain things, even if their action isn't, what we need. So yeah, I think like we said before, Van being a part of an organization can be like this AIPAC. If you want to learn more about AIPAC and Israel and Palestine and you can come because we're having a teaching or something like that, or next show, or Van could bring an expert with a left political analysis that can shred anything about AIPAC and put them in front of Gavin. Because Van supposedly has the autonomy and the power to do that if he has his own show. So I'm just kind of like, I would prefer that. Like, and you already pointed out, right? Like that hiding the contradictions, because then he'd realize he doesn't have the autonomy to do that on the Ringer podcast. Like he will see that there's pushback and that there are, gates, boundaries that even if he couldn't see them before, they exist. There are guardrails. So I agree. I would love to see him try to hide the contradictions that way. Clearly he won't do it, but I think you even see at the end of the clip with the slight backtracking that I think Amber already pointed it out. People want to get back on these shows. Like people want to keep having this podcast. So it's access journalism. You have a financial incentive to not piss off the Democratic Party so you can get other big name interviews. And if you do, then they can mess with your money, mess with your check. You won't get any more political interviews, at least. And so obviously we see that is an inherent contradiction of trying to engage in corporate media. And to your point, another reason why you need an organization behind you making the media in the first place. So yeah. But Gavin Newsom, the Democrats, they are trash. We talk about it all the time on this channel. More evidence right there. I do think it's like annoying the waffling because again, like people talk about Trump and claim that he's so honest and direct and we know he's lying. But when you have this as the person they're setting up as his competition, right? Like Trump is funnier, at least, like I'm not this fucking knockoff Matthew McConaughey is not gonna do it for a lot of people, especially, the whites who we talk about as swinging these elections when they vote in terms of their class interests with Trump and things like that. So yeah, I think Gavin Newsom's getting set up probably to be the next generic white guy. Sorry, Brittany disagrees with me that Trump is not funny. I'm sorry. I think that man is funny, or he knows how to use humor, even if he's not. Listen, the man understands propaganda to some degree. We have to acknowledge that, objectively speaking. Even if you don't find him individually funny, I get it.
I think this is why spaces like this is valuable because whenever you're so again, and as I'm thinking about AIPAC, I'm thinking about Van Lathan, and I'm thinking about like a Breakfast Club, and they like when this thing has been started long before any of these niggas are on platforms, right?
Right.
The genocide. But when the latest iteration of it and the more public thing of the counter violence, initially niggas was not on Palestine side or speaking for Palestine. I remember when Tesla and Figaro came on Breakfast Club and said NATO was the homie, and they need to stand down, and NATO will blow these motherfuckers off the map. The U.S. will blow these niggas off the map. And then now that they see the resistance is actually doing the motherfucking thing, like now niggas is talking about APAC and shit like that. And I'm just like, bro, what the fuck is y'all talking about? Like they don't even agree. Like they like Democrat violence. They like Democrat warmongering. They don't like Republican or Trump warmongering. And I feel like that's the thing. Like, yeah, let's like, okay, what wars do you agree with, my nigga? Like, what military aggression do you like? Because if your talking line sounds Democrat, then you would have to kind of explicitly talk about that. And I just feel like in those spaces, like it's pretty much putting a gate and a clamp on the left. Like that's all it is. Like, and that's why they're here. They're not here for any other reason.
That's it. Not much we can say other than that. That's the fight we're in. So appreciate that analysis. And you sound a little bit like Ancestor Glenn Ford. So I just dropped that in the chat so we can close out with our little bit of a flashback Friday. We've been watching Black Agenda TV on Fridays to see a little bit of Black Liberation Media's roots with Black Agenda Report. And so if you haven't already, again, you just type in Black Agenda TV on YouTube and you can find these videos. I'm going to drop the link in the chat one more time. But I always think it's interesting to see where you came from and how you're building on previous work, on previous legacies. And we do with this. So let's lock into it.
In this edition of Black Agenda Television, Bruce Dixon looks at the growing loss of Black political power over their schools and community, especially in those places where African Americans are majorities of the population. And we'll examine the volatile situation in South Africa, where 2 decades of Black majority rule has failed to unseat entrenched white power. But first, there's a scarcity of African Americans in President Obama's cabinet. But Glenn Ford says Black folks should be more upset about the policies of this administration rather than the number of Black faces in high places.
The Congressional Black Caucus is disappointed. They're indignant and upset with President Obama. Why? Because there are so few African Americans at the highest levels of Obama's cabinet. Harlem Congressman Charles Rangel goes so far as to say that he's embarrassed at the lack of Black faces in high places in the administration. The Black Caucus reasons that since Blacks voted so overwhelmingly for Obama's re-election, their loyalty should be recognized and rewarded through cabinet appointments. Well, there are 2 things wrong with that reasoning. First, political constituencies are not necessarily rewarded for their loyalty. Rather, they are given recognition and rewards in order to keep them loyal. In other words, there must be a credible threat that if a politician does not do right by one of his constituencies, they will stop being so loyal. That's why President Obama has been acting so very grateful to Latinos. Hispanics gave about 70% of their votes to Obama last year, somewhat more than in 2008. But at least 93% of Blacks cast their ballots for the president, and Black voters still outnumber Hispanic voters. Obama feels the need to curry favor among Latinos in order to keep their loyalty and build on it. Latinos made demands on the administration, especially regarding immigration. Blacks have made no demands of Obama in either of his presidential contests. So, the Congressional Black Caucus should be embarrassed for selling their loyalties and Black interests so cheaply. Of course, President Obama takes the Black vote for granted. Black leadership, including the Black Caucus, has given him no reason to do otherwise. The Black Caucus is all caught up in symbolism, but neglects the fundamentals of substance. The caucus wants a blacker cabinet. But what good are Black cabinet members if administration policies work against Black people's interests and against the interests of humanity at large? Eric Holder is the nation's first black attorney general. He presides over the federal prison system, whose inmate population continues to increase while state prison populations decline. Eric Holder justified President Obama's preventive detention law, declaring that due process does not necessarily mean access to the courts. Effectively, whole sections of the Bill of Rights have ceased to exist under this president. And yet, all the Congressional Black Caucus seems to be upset about is that we don't have more Eric Holders in high positions. The Black Caucus would have loved to see Susan Rice elevated to Secretary of State, a job held by two blacks in the Bush administration. Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell were warmongers and liars. If anything, Susan Rice is worse. She has been an active participant in a U.S. Africa policy that has left 6 million Congolese dead since 1996. She supported U.S. policy in Somalia that led to what United Nations observers called the worst humanitarian crisis in Africa. And she is credited with convincing President Obama to wage a 7-month bombing campaign against Libya, which has now plunged much of North Africa into chaos. Susan Rice has more blood on her hands than Condoleezza Rice. She is the symbol and substance of evil. Yet, the Congressional Black Caucus wants more people like her in the cabinet, which says volumes about the Black Caucus and the bankrupt state of what passes for black leadership in the United States.
When black majority rule came to the Republic of South Africa in 1991, President Nelson Mandela was one of the world's most famous men. Many millions of people all across the planet were inspired by the words of the African National Congress's Freedom Charter, which promised land to the people and popular ownership of the country's mines and industries. But that has not come to pass. Instead, economic disparities in South Africa are among the worst in the world. How has this come to be? Glenn Ford explores that question with South African political activist Molefi Ndlovu.
Our guest is Molefi Ndlovu. He's a political activist and researcher for the Center for Civil Society at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. That's in Durban, South Africa. Welcome to Black Agenda Television.
Thank you very much, Glenn.
Everybody in
just on the last segment, it was man. It's amazing. It's amazingly clear. I just really want to highlight Glenn's argument because I think it does get lost even when we have some of these struggle sessions on the left, where Glenn keeps saying that the Democrats are the more effective evil for black people. And I think that part of that for black people gets lost a lot of times when discussing lesser evilism. Glenn is pointing out that our consciousness as Africans in America is that of a colonized people linked to global struggles around the world. And he's saying that Obama, the Democrats, the CBC explicitly are good at destroying that consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
That is why he's saying they're the more effective evil, because they stop black people's anti-imperialist consciousness. They make us less likely to resist, right? So that I think that gets lost a lot when we're talking about, well, you see Trump does this and Trump is this open kind of fascism or whatever people want to debate on. Glenn is talking about, what about us? How do we organize? How does the black community get itself to ask for demands and ask for a political agenda and ask for policy? And he's saying that the Obamas, the CBC, the Kamalas of the world, for black people are way more effective at disrupting our movements. And I think that makes a lot of sense based on all the evidence he's laying out in that segment about Susan Rice.
Yeah, we me and Asafo before we transition, there was a couple things that we were working on. A black voter that talks around again having black people get intimately connected to policy as opposed to pigment, people, personalities, and parties that don't serve us. And then, we talked about the 4 responses to hegemony, but one of the lectures that we actually did a couple times was real, and it's an African-centered critique on African progress. And so it's broken down to acronym. Representation is R, expiation is E, amelioration is A, and then liberation is L. And so when you look at people in progress, like it's like a value system of you can see where it fits in. And so when Glenn was talking about like representation doesn't equate to expiation, repair, but it literally just puts you in a space of like having a black version of something white. And so that's why we even get into the place where we like, Black Wall Street was okay, yeah, that's cool. Well, what was White Wall Street about? Well, why would we want a black version of that? And so it's like folks are still caught on trying to fit in and close their proximity to whiteness that they just literally don't even conceptualize representation in a way that the power structure do it. Because I think there's another way to talk about representation, meaning whenever, as we were saying, like representation will be how do you have more radical left voices that coherent in these spaces? That's the representation we want. We don't want just a black person. We want a particular black person.
Yeah.
In those spaces.
Only other thing that stood out in that segment to me was his discussion of the Latino community and their demands for immigration reform. Because again, in this era, I think that's getting lost too. They all voted for Trump. We just saw, okay, everybody, they all voted for Trump. And remember that? Everybody, they're so anti-black. They all voted for Trump. What did Ancestor Ford just point out to you? 70% voted for Obama, right? And had demands for immigration. Those demands weren't met. We saw that, right? We saw they didn't get what they want to get. All the brown people get all these resources and the Latinos are getting everything and they stick together and all of that. They voted, fell for it. They okey doke, just like us. They asked for some demands. Those demands weren't met. And then what did we always talk about, to Glenn Ford's point? Obama had the top deportations among any president. So this is somebody who betrayed that brown community, betrayed our community. And then all these years later, we're left scrambling and in confusion and fighting each other over some shit. Like, wait a minute. Didn't you all vote 70+% for Obama and demand immigration reform in 2008? So why are we here fighting y'all about ICE and deportations? I thought Obama was supposed to, right? So this is the kind of historical confusion I think we get in with just like one election cycle or two election cycles out of the last one, where we're forgetting like materially what was the black community asking for, what were the immigrant community asking for, that kind of thing, and how were those requests betrayed.
Yeah, is there any more of it that you want to play?
Nah, I want to get into the South Africa piece because one, there's so many parallels to the Palestine struggle. It is amazing to hear this organizer lay it out. So I thought we could maybe watch it for a few minutes, talk, and then close out. But the first 4 minutes of that interview, I think, are super sharp.
In the world knows the name Nelson Mandela, but there are also millions of people, non-South Africans, who remember at least some of the words from the African National Congress's Freedom Charter. It's a document that many people consider a kind of promise to the South African people, and I'd like to read just a few passages from it here. Sure. It says, "The national wealth of our country shall be restored to the people. The mineral wealth beneath the soil, the banks, and the monopoly industry shall be transferred to the people as a whole, and all land shall be redivided amongst those who work it." None of this has come to pass in the 20 years or so since the first non-racial elections. What happened?
Well, there's a lot of things in between. One of them was that, to start off with the Freedom Charter itself, not everyone felt that it was a universally shared vision, in the sense that it gave the same ownership and entitlements to both the previous oppressors and those that were supposed to come out of oppression. So from that point on, people like Robert Sobukwe and others were critical that the Freedom Charter sets a goal that is not possible to achieve in the context of wide inequality, in the context of massive theft of land and the disappropriation of African people in the country. So even that they're given, the promises of the Freedom Charter were undermined by the nature of the transition. As you know, South Africa did not go through a revolutionary seizure of power. In fact, what happened was that there was a negotiated settlement which was set to a large extent on the terms of the apartheid regime, in the sense that it acknowledged the continuity of certain elements of South African society, specifically the economic elements of what made South Africa what it was, the giant of the African continent in terms of the economy. So the transition was such that it gave political rights in a rhetorical sense that the constitution gave, and recognized Africans as humans, which was not the case in apartheid. But it did not go further to elaborate how those rights are to be attained. So in the Constitution, for instance, following up to the Freedom Charter or the spirit of the Freedom Charter, there's all sorts of the Bill of Rights in the South African Constitution details that everyone has got the right to dignity, to life, to health, and so on. Yet within the Freedom Charter, the South African Constitution, there's also a clause there which is called the limitation clause, which means all of these rights are there to be taken in the context that the state is able to afford to give these rights. So, for instance, one of the biggest constitutional cases was involving the provision of emergency health care to a man who was sick of sugar diabetes and needed dialysis machines. And the state used the conditions of the limitation clause within the Constitution to say that to give such emergency care would take away resources that the state does not have, and so therefore the limitation clause was applied to say that the resources are not there.
So the excuse for the last 20 years has been that the South African state cannot afford a social transformation.
Precisely. And the reason why the South African state cannot afford it was that also that the ANC inherited a largely bankrupt state, in the sense that with the transition to democracy also meant that there were fundamental reforms that had to be taken in the state, and these took a tone of a neoliberal turn, which was in vogue in the early 90s, which said that the state has to be reduced, privatization has to be adopted, neoliberal economic processes to be applied through all sectors of South African life. So whereas the Freedom Charter sees the state as the main facilitator for some of these changes to happen, the economic policies made it that the state cannot become a leader in the transformation, that the state should take a backseat and instead give the space for private capitalist development to be the one that solves some of the contradictions of South African society.
Where is the space for the people's development?
Well, in the rhetoric, we should give credence to what has happened to this point. There has been an effort, at least in the part of the liberating forces, that was the ANC and others that were in government, to say at the level of rhetoric that there is an acknowledgement that the state ought to have the interest of the people at heart. So in people voting for the state, it was almost like giving the power to make these changes to the state. But at the same time, the state was also subject to a lot of pressure, unequal pressure, in the sense that the interests of business to a large extent dominated what choices are available and so on. So the people at the moment feel like their power was limited to the vote. But beyond the vote, some of the micro and macroeconomic concerns are taken off the public agenda and are discussed in fora like what they call NEDLEC, which is a coming together of the state, private enterprises, and labor, and negotiating around things like economic policy, around labor legislation, and also around things related to what they call black economic empowerment. So those negotiations are outside of the realm of public participation and cannot really be influenced by the vast majority of the population in South Africa.
The South African state also has a rather straightforward policy of black capitalism, which...
Neocolonialism. It's amazing how, sharp the outline was from that brother about how it is the neoliberalization of every aspect of South African social life. Definitely like that phrase. And this is very similar to our struggles in the US, but I also saw it as parallel to the Palestine struggle. So I think that was helpful, hearing how there's a negotiated peace, essentially, and what happens when your peace is negotiated on the terms of your oppressor. I think that's something that Black people in America can relate to. I think that's something that's related to this ceasefire that we're hearing about, where it's important, right? The brother says we didn't get this by a revolutionary seizure of power, not to say those elements weren't there. Shout out to Winnie Mandela and folks. But yeah, I think we're seeing the limitations of reform. And I think that video pretty much laid it out. So Chris, any other thoughts you had about that brother from South Africa, that analysis?
That's why we talk about now reform is reform. Nah. But look, so when they were talking, like it immediately made me merge in what you were talking about earlier with Mitch. So my teeth got cracked in Eastern Kentucky with like a white liberal organization, Kentucky's for the Commonwealth, Pikeville, Knott County, Harlan County, Bloody Harlan, if anybody familiar with it. But I remember like all of our like ditch Mitch campaigns and trying to like, because the dude is from I think Arkansas somewhere, but he has like deep family in Eastern Kentucky. And when this brother was talking, it's like there's laws in Kentucky where you can own land, but you don't own the mineral rights. So that gives the mining companies the right to extract and dig under your house and dig whatever. And so in Eastern Kentucky, like there's literally like schools and hospitals sinking because of that. And then so it just kind of made me think about like the ecology and the policy of liberation and self-determination that sometimes or a lot of times get left off the table. It's like we get so like I guess stuck in critiquing things and what are we against, and just being clear on what are you for and why and what are you fighting for, and not only the demands but communicate the demands in a policy oriented way to help people like this is a social order that we want to like strive and struggle for. So I think him having all that clarity and just experience, I think is dope. But that definitely made me think about how like just sometimes we are disconnected from like actual social orders and policies that we want and that we're trying to struggle for. And then a lot of times I don't think we think about like something as simple or as complex as minerals and having rights to minerals and what do your government and people say you could or can't do, and then how it impact you. This includes like how water is the same water that's been on the earth since the earth was the earth. Like how does water get cleaned and recycled, and how many trees that you have and or don't have, and how that impacts the water. And so I just think that that level of detail was pretty dope to watch, and the fact that Lynn was already on that shit.
Yeah. And the environmental struggle is extremely important. I think the land question is one that is different in our context, but I know, like for example, Community Movement Builders is trying to resolve it, and it's tough. Like it's a question that makes you ask essentially everything, right? Like, well, how do we hold this? It's a security thing. I think it's a very important side of struggle for a lot of different things at once. And I do want to just shamelessly promote on BLM Kali Akuno's Build and Fight formula that's been on Tandy's show. It's been airing throughout the past few months, so we can definitely check it out to see how we apply this to our struggle now and how we're addressing some of those topics you mentioned, Geechee: mineral rights, water rights, how to secure land, how to build farmland or farming techniques and grow our own food, all of those things. And yeah, the Seventh Son says, what is the point of owning land if you don't own the mineral and the water rights? So you're absolutely right. That is why we fight for socialism, so that the banks can't own those things, and so that FPNL, this one company, can't monopolize electricity in the entire state, which is wild. And growing up, I used to think FPNL in Florida was a government company. That was what I like legit was like, why would they let a private company run the entire electric grid? That doesn't make any sense. There's no way. I actually had an argument with someone that FPNL was a government company until they proved me wrong. So definitely important contradiction to look through.
Yeah, I think having conversations around like privatization, nationalizing things, and globalization, it's just like I actually remember like, and because I was in like in those spaces where like coal is like one of the fossil fuels in general, but coal is one of the main sources of energy, and like living in a coal pocket in the mountains and like actually seeing what light up Louisville and light up the US, New York and places. Just having that conversation around like I've heard in college and different places about globalization and all these other things, and then even heard, as I said before, like Bill Clinton coming and having an opportunity to like sit in a room with him and ask questions. And he was like, well, you know why we can't stop burning coal? He was like, why? Because China is burning coal at this minute per second. And I'm like, nigga, we're in a race to burn coal. What the fuck?
China. Okay, guy.
So
four times our population, by the way, never gets mentioned. Never gets. Four times.
Listen, 4 times the population, and they don't burn it in excess because they have more people. But we got 3-4 times less and burning. Like the shit is just crazy. Like and I think one of the people when we was in Colombia, they kind of told us that it's like y'all want to say we got to stop burning coal. Well, like nigga, we can stop the coal industry if the U.S. stop making the demands and actually creating an industry in the way in which they create it. And again, I just don't think we're like really talking about like power in that way, but like power from like lights and electricities and things like I just don't think we like have those type of conversations.
No, we will as we keep building. To Chitty Macha's point, my bad. Almost 5 times the population of the U.S. Yeah, very important. I think this is a perfect point to leave off on. You and I are going to build on the Inside China Business because I think that that channel addresses so many of the things that we talk about on this platform. Jackie's done some good coverage of her trip in China, so go check that out if you haven't on the platform as well. Some good information when she got to visit recently. And she's coming up later this afternoon, Darker Than Blue. So make sure you check out all the programming we have on Black Liberation Media. The Inside China Business thing I think would be dope to talk about. I also think we can talk about Dr. Jason Hickel, who I brought up last time for his liberalism breakdown. Also had a pretty dope interview on climate change, climate colonialism, and what we're dealing with. So I think we could talk about that as well. I think it's really much tied to the land question, all of those things. So we're going to do that. I see someone just realized it's Friday. Happy Friday, y'all. We got Darker Than Blue coming up. I'm not sure. We might have Black Myths pod. We got Saturdays with Renee, of course. So be sure you tap in. What you got going on this weekend, Geechee?
Couple family engagements, but the organization is having a general body meeting. So if you're with CNB in those chats, make sure you sign up and get there. And then there's a couple things. There's a People's Movement Assembly that we're having in the neighborhood, and as I said, at the end of this month, we will have the the anti-prison reader with Mumia and Jennifer Black, who edited a very beautiful book. I'm on the Russell Maroon Schultz chapter right now. And I actually thinking about some of the young people who are involved at Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark. I'm probably going to bring them on this show prior to the event. So the event is on the 30th. So one of the Fridays before that, probably bring them on and have like a sensitive conversation about some of the articles or some of the written material in there. And I'll share the PDF with you and Amber so y'all can kind of prep for it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that event, but a discussion around that book seems like it will be generative.
Ever since you mentioned it, I've been looking forward to it. Real quick, how was your birthday?
The birthday was dope, man. I think I had time to cut off from everything and everybody who I don't feel safe around, and so I've been around my family, and yeah, we just had a good time. And my cousin, I have a cousin, bro, whose hair, like, he was born, like, I was born in October of '83, and he was born in January of '84. And like, while I was still a baby, like, because our dads are brothers, and like, we've been together since since it came out. And it hasn't, like, so he was there, and then I have another brother whose hair, we have the same dad but not the same mom, and then a bunch of friends. I don't know if there's anybody, a bunch of friends that I've met since I've been here in Atlanta, and so all of those folks was in the space, and it was a dope time. We played this one game where I know you fucking lying,
Yeah,
You played that before?
Yes.
That's the first time playing that. I was like, it's
Amazing
crazy.
game.
But basically, like you take a card and it says, I can name one so and so, and the next person say, I can name two so and so.
Yeah.
And then people, and you got to look confident. And somebody like, I know you fucking lying. Like, I can name 7 country artists.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh shit. So I think that was pretty dope. When we played spades, obviously another thing. But yeah, it was a dope experience, and I appreciate everybody who put it together.
Happy belated. Happy you were there around family. Blackman Bill, we got a chess night. If you're in Little Haiti, Miami, Chef Creole, pull up. It's going to be a good time. We also have comrade on the channel, Dr. Layla Brown, who will be coming down to FIU on October 24th to speak about Pan-Africanism, Afro-Venezuelan solidarity, things of that nature. So check that out. And right after that, we'll be screening Soundtrack to a Coup as well. So just tap in with Blackman Bill Miami if you haven't. Personally, chilling, getting my life together, finishing that Hubert Harrison book, and catching up because there's been some great content on this channel that I have to go back and take a look at. So if you haven't caught Brokish, Darker Than Blue, Saturdays with Renee, I Mix What I Like, Leaders of Beautiful Struggle, all of that content, please catch up, like, share, subscribe, and tap in with the work.
Oh, you got to join our side study since you're reading the Hubert Harrison book.
Oh yeah. We gonna, I'll definitely be there with you. So, last thing, Theory Thursday, we finally got the news about Drum and the League of Revolutionary Black Workers. So that'll probably be uploaded, but if you haven't seen it already, finally got the news, 1970 documentary, Essential Black Communist Political Education, and it's for free on YouTube. So either tap in with us and what we've done on Blackman Bill's YouTube channel, or take some time, take an hour, and give it a watch.
Yeah, man. Listen, appreciate y'all. Remix, chat, undefeated, as they say. Keep the comments going, and then we gonna see y'all next week.
Peace. If you want to fight for it, yo. We up.
Staggering, the gathering, possessed by a pattern that be scattering. Over the global, my vocals be traveling, unraveling my abdomen.
Remix. 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 Remix.